Welcome, my name is Andrew Lee, and today we'll be covering giving and taking. These two fictional characters have a lot in common. On the left you have Dr. House, and on the right you have Stewie Griffin. Dr. House is unorthodox, radical, unsympathetic, and rude in his behaviors. And Stewie is also eccentric, flamboyant, intelligent like Dr. House, and rude and evil. Both of these characters can say mean things. They're just jerks to the people around them, and they don't care if they hurt other people's feelings. They're both very similar in nature, and they are just often hard to work with. But I want you to keep in mind throughout this presentation, who do you think would be a better employee to work with, or who would contribute more to the organization? The TED Talk we'll be covering is by Adam Grant. He covered Are You a Giver or Are You a Taker? And he basically covers the three different types of workers in every organization. You have your givers, you have your takers, and then you have your matchers. He defines the steps to create a conducive environment for givers and matchers, because those are the two types of people you want in your organization. Then he goes into further detail of the right people you want on your bus or on your team in your organization. So, the three types of workers. You have your givers. They ask, what can I do for you? They are unselfish in nature and often go out of the way to help you when it comes to a great cost to them. On the flip side of that, you have your takers. They ask, what can you do for me? They are self-serving in nature, and they do not go out of the way to help others. And then you have your matchers. I'll do something for you if you do something for me. And these people will reflect whatever is dominant in an organization. So if there are more givers, then they will reflect the qualities of a giver. If there are more takers, then they will resemble taking personalities rather than giving. And so what do givers and matchers do, and why are they so important? In over 31 studies, givers often end up as the lowest performers in a workplace. And Grant said that there's reasons for this. And he spoke to a salesperson who had low numbers, and he asked him, why are your numbers so low? And Grant said that the salesman said, well, I just care about my customers so deeply that I wouldn't want to sell them a crappy product. And that makes a lot of sense because givers are more long-term thinking. They might not be getting higher sales right now, but if they have higher retention rates, then over the course of, let's say, a year, they will have higher sales numbers versus a taker who might take advantage of a customer in the moment and sell them a crappy product, but that will catch up to them and they will lose that customer in the long term. And this is why givers are also the highest performers in every workplace. They are long-term and they make the decisions that will help them out further on down the road. And matchers will reflect the same style if there are more givers in the workplace, which is why it's important we create that environment for givers to be dominant. So how do we do that? You have to protect givers from burnout. You have to let them be able to take time off or give them the ability to step back, focus on themselves, and just let everything fall into place. You also have to encourage help. Make it okay for your employees to ask for help. You never know when it might be needed. And then you need to get the right people on the bus, or better yet, get the wrong people off the bus, and that are your takers. Takers are only going to hurt the team and only going to hold back the organization from moving forward. So Adam Grant goes into further detail of givers and takers and agreeableness and disagreeableness. And you can see that we have Dr. House and Stewie back. First you have your agreeable giver, and this is a character from The Simpsons. He's always going to help you. He's very unselfish and will always go out of his way, but he will tiptoe around big issues and not give you honest feedback because he's afraid to hurt your feelings. Where the disagreeable giver, Dr. House, I've already told you he's rude and unsympathetic, will give you the honest feedback because he knows that it's needed for the organization. And if it's needed for the organization, then he's not going to care if he hurts your feelings. One of the most dangerous types of employees you need to watch out for is the agreeable taker, which is Stewie. This is the person that will say one thing to your face or agree with whatever you say, and then go right behind your back and do the opposite of what he or she said that they were going to do. Because they are self-serving in nature, they do not care about the overall big picture of the workplace, and they will do whatever it takes to help themselves. Then you have your disagreeable taker. They will be very obvious to find. They show up, do the work, and leave. They just get the paycheck. They never do anything extra, and they do not help the organization. So going back to my original question, who do you think would be a better employee in the workplace? Dr. House, being the disagreeable giver, because he will always do what it does what it takes to help the organization, whether he hurts your feelings or not. Grant said that those are the most undervalued employees in an organization, and we need to be sure that we protect them and keep them in with us because they will help us in the long run. So the two social psychology concepts from our textbook to keep in mind with this is first, social perception. And this is going to be important for hiring managers. If we can be good at thin slicing, drawing meaningful conclusions about another person's personality or skills based on extremely brief samples of behavior, then we will be able to cut out takers from the beginning. If we can somehow weed them out and never let them on our buzz, then we don't have to worry about them hurting our overall organization. We have to have a clear understanding of the attribution theory, a description of the way in which people explain the causes of their own behavior and other people's behavior. A good question for hiring managers to ask during the interview process is, can you name a time that you went out of your way to help somebody? Takers will always say how they've helped somebody in higher positions than them because they expect that person to help them out with some favor in return. But a giver will always say how they've helped somebody below them because the giver knows that that person might not be able to help them back in the same way, but they don't care because they are truly unselfishly serving others and they care about helping as many people as they can. And those are good questions to keep in mind. And if hiring managers can keep the takers out, then this will never be an issue. The next one is conformity, and this will fall more in the hands of the managers. Managers must effectively use the power of social influence. Social norms, the implicit or explicit role that a group has for the acceptable behaviors, values, and beliefs of its members. If we can establish social norms where it's normal to put the customer needs above our own, to go out of our way to help them, work extra if need be, then matchers will match that style. And that's why matchers are so important because they make the majority of the workplace and they need to be influenced in a positive way where they can resemble more of the giving qualities and that will help out the organization. We also need to understand the social impact theory, the idea that conforming to social influence depends on the group's importance, immediacy, and the number of people in the group. If we as managers can make our groups feel important, recognize what they do, and reward them for what they do well, and give them the honest feedback for what they don't do well, then the givers and matchers will only do better in their work each time around. And that's important for managers to know and be aware of. And that will just make the givers and matchers perform better. So in summary, if we can understand our social psychology concepts, then we could create the perfect environment where matchers will reflect givers and givers will be able to do what is necessary to keep the organization going and improving at all times. If we have the perfect environment where only givers and matchers exist, then we will have a culture of highly productive employees where the workplace will always, like as I keep saying, improving. And then Grant says if all these conditions exist and then everything falls into place, then pronoia will exist, the belief that other people are plotting your well-being. Imagining working in a place where that exists, where you know all of your team members have your back, you know that you have your customers back, and everyone is just happy to work there and everything's going well. Would you ever leave that organization? I know I wouldn't, and I would love to find a job like that, and I hope I can after I graduate this May here from Western. So here are the works cited. I have the link to the TED Talk in the second work cited. I highly recommend that you go watch it. It has been one of my favorite TED Talks to watch. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. Feel free to contact me with any more questions you may have. Thank you and have a great day.